Hello, I'm Giles Darling and I write novels, plays and non-fiction books. In this video, I continue to show an example of how to create dozens of story ideas from a what-if moment. This follows the process outlined in my How to Create Story Ideas videos, which I include a link to below. In my previous videos, I asked and answered some open-ended questions about voting reform. The next step is to come up with some brief story ideas by combining these answers in different combinations. To help me with this, I start by writing the answers in lists and then I place the lists side by side. You might wish to pause the video at this point in order to see these lists more clearly. A further step can be to throw some dice to select answers from each list at random. If you don't have any dice to hand, you can always use an app or website to generate random numbers instead. To avoid duplicating answers, just throw your dice again. If you end up with an unrealistic or absurd combination of answers, think twice before rejecting them, because sometimes the more unusual combinations can lead to more unique story ideas. Ideally, each story idea contains a trigger event, also known as an inciting incident, an initial attempt to resolve the event, and maybe some unexpected consequences, often in the form of questions. Different potential answers offer the possibility of even more story ideas. Here are some example story ideas based on combinations, some of which were created by a random number generator website. Story idea number 1. A studious child is horrified when the head teacher at their school decides to change the criteria for selecting the Student of the Year award. Originally based solely on academic results, the winner of the award will now be decided by a school-wide vote. Our central character isn't popular and therefore now has no hope of winning. Do they try to undermine the vote? Do they find out why the head teacher changed the voting system in the first place? Story idea number 2. A spy is sent to a democratic country to undermine its voting system. Through a series of misunderstandings and mishaps, the spy becomes a politician and even works their way up the political hierarchy. Do they make it all the way to the top? Do they become president or prime minister? Once there, they have the perfect opportunity to overturn the country's voting system, but are they still loyal to their original spy masters, or do they now favour democracy? Story idea number 3. A chauffeur is in favour of the first and second past the post FASPTP voting system for some reason. Maybe their child is studying politics at university. The chauffeur works for an influential minister who's part of a government that looks likely to lose the next election. Stuck in traffic on a long journey, the chauffeur wins over the minister to the advantages of FASPTP. However, the minister later takes credit for the idea. How does the chauffeur react? Story idea number 4. A down-on-their-luck reporter discovers that a group of politicians are only promoting a change to the voting system because a mysterious villain has kidnapped the politicians' families. Revealing this scoop of the century will resurrect the reporter's career, but jeopardise the kidnapped families' lives. However, doing nothing risks damaging democracy. Whose needs does the reporter put first? Their own, the kidnapped families, or the nation's? Story idea number 5. While updating voting software so that it will run on the latest computer kit and operating system, a software engineer discovers a section of code that allows the vote count to be altered externally. The engineer reports this to their supervisor, only to discover, too late, that the supervisor is part of a secret wing of a political party determined to get elected no matter what. Does the engineer flee for their life? Do they manage to tell the president or prime minister? Story idea number 6. A medieval city-state is ruled over by 3 powerful families, one in charge of defence, the second in charge of taxes, and the third in charge of law and order. The children of each family are initially friends, as they share tutors, but as the children reach adulthood, a love triangle forms, and rivalries threaten the city's future. Concerned citizens rise up and demand the right to vote. How do the powerful families react? Do they acquiesce or do they fight to the end? Story idea number 7. On a whim, a carpenter with an empty order book applies to build new voting booths for the county, needed due to a change in the voting system. After unexpectedly winning the contract, the carpenter is horrified to see how much work is involved. Too much for them alone and in too short a timescale? Does the carpenter admit they're not up to the job, or do they keep going, destined to fail? What happens at the election when there are no voting booths? Story idea number 8. At a beauty pageant, a contestant discovers that the voting has been fixed so that a particular person wins, maybe based on politically correct criteria. The contestant complains, only to discover that the pageant's voting system allows this type of interference. Still not satisfied, the contestant protests at other pageants and demands changes to the voting system. Do they get banned from pageants for life, or do other contestants support and join our hero? Story idea number 9. A progressive head teacher in the 1800s is impressed by the idea of citizen referendums and direct democracy. The head teacher decides to try it out with a school's students voting each week on every aspect of the school's operation. However, when the results of the votes start impacting on the hiring and firing of staff and affecting the school's finances, the head teacher tries to shut this voting experiment down. Are they successful, or is the school doomed? Story idea number 10. In the near future, an average person stares bewildered at a computer screen, on which is a long list of decisions that the person must take at that month's citizen referendum. Not having any opinions, the person picks answers at random. However, the combination they choose causes a malfunction in the system, and everyone's votes are lost. The person is accused of deliberate espionage. Can the person prove their innocence, or do they go to jail? Story idea number 11. Aliens visit Earth, but they don't make contact because they cannot determine who leads the planet. They notice how different countries have different voting systems, unlike on the aliens' home planet, which is a global dictatorship. News of democracy on Earth leaks out on the aliens' home planet, leading to an uprising. The aliens on Earth have to return home in a hurry to protect the dictator. Does anyone on Earth realise they were visited by aliens, if only very briefly? Story idea number 12. In the distant future, a machine governs the world using algorithms to resolve disputes and to allocate resources. Through education policies and the control of information, the machine turns people into mindless and compliant servants. Only one person, a former politician long since retired, sees what's happening and tries to lead an uprising to reintroduce human voting. However, no one else supports them, at least at first. Can our hero defeat the machine? Thank you for watching this video. Please feel free to use any of these story ideas for your own novels, plays, screenplays or TV scripts. To see me create more story ideas by swapping story components, among other methods, please watch my final follow-up video. Please also check out the rest of my YouTube channel, especially where I discuss the various books that I've written. I hope my channel encourages you to buy my books and to read them, if you haven't already done so. Finally, please feel free to leave comments below and to like and subscribe this video on my YouTube channel. Until next time.